and welcome to Stories and Stuff. I'm going to be talking to you about pink books today. When children have finished on lilac, they move on to pink. They're the pink non-decodable. That means that you can't sound out the words, and that's because children haven't learnt many letter sounds yet. These books are really useful for learning their tricky words and building up a bank of known reading words. Just like with lilac books, the front covers of these books are really helpful. You can start to make predictions, which is a great skill to have. What do you think is going to happen? But you can also use them to develop children's vocabulary. So for example, with this book, if your child didn't know what a parade was, you could talk all around the pictures and why there is a crowd there and what these people are doing walking down the street and what a parade is all about. If I flick through this book, you'll see lots of repeating patterns. So here comes the can you see the Here comes the can you see the They're repetitive for a reason. It's to help children learn those sight words so they can start to recognise those words and just know them off by heart. And because it's quite predictable and repetitive, children can successfully read it after a few goes, which is what we want. We want children to be able to read a book and feel good about it and enjoy it. When we're introducing a pink book at school, we often go through the pictures to start with, but it's really important when you get right near the end to stop. And that's because for some children, if you've shown them the whole story and you've got right through to the end, what's the point in reading it? They've read it, they don't need to read it again. So if you're introducing the story, I would go right to the end, leave the last page, and that's where you can make some more predictions. What do you think is going to happen at the end? Here we talk about the band, because this is the vocabulary that's being used in this story. You'd say, what can you see here? So that links with the text really clearly. So you've got clowns, the picture really clearly matches the words, and that's really helpful. We want to teach children to use pictures to help them read words they don't know. So you would expect a child, once they've learnt the pattern, to be able to say, here come the... They have a look at the pictures and they know it's clowns. Can you see the clowns? These pictures are really useful. It's worth going through the book first and having a look and a chat about those pictures. With pink books, you still have these illustrations, and obviously you could spend time talking about them, what the family are doing, which books that you think the children are going to choose, and you can use that to develop speaking and listening. But when it comes to the text, the children have got to read the text that's in the book, not the story that they've made up. And this is really useful for developing finger pointing. We call it one-to-one correspondence, where children have to say one word for each word in the book. You can point out to them, if they're starting to make up these great stories, how it doesn't match the book. So if I said the children were going shopping and choosing a book, the children were going shopping and choosing a book. No, it doesn't match what's in the text. We use pink books to teach children the difference between letters and words. So words are made up of letters, and then we have this space in between each word. And for each word we point to, we say one word. As children get to know some of their sounds, they can start to use that to help them with these stories. So for example, in this story here, we went to the... If they were stuck on this word here, they could use that initial sound, that first letter, to help them guess what the word is. So you might find your child says, we went to the teddy shop. And actually that's a really good attempt, because teddy starts with t. So in that case I'd say, yeah, well done. You looked at the t and you used the picture and you said teddy. That's a really good guess, but this time it says toy. So even if children have had a good go and don't quite get it right, it's worth praising that behaviour, because that's the kind of reading behaviour that we want them to use all the time. Another thing we do with children when we start to read books is try and relate it to their own experience. So for example, this one, the child is being looked after by the older children, so you could talk about babysitters or times they went to stay with a different family member. And that all helps the children's understanding of a text if they can relate it to their own experience. So this one, for example, is a book about a shopping trip. You could talk about time when you've been shopping and the different kinds of shops you go in when you go to town or a shopping centre. And what that does is it gives your child a context. So they're starting to think a bit more about, well, what happens when we go shopping? And that will help them as well to solve some words that they don't know. Learning to read is really tiring. So it's not uncommon for a child to really tire halfway through a book, even if they're only 8 pages long. So what we say is encourage your child to read a couple of pages, and when they start to tire, that's okay, just say you'll finish for them and you can read the rest of the book. It's much better for children to read 2-4 pages every day than to read a whole book once a week. So little and often is the best bet. Hope that video is useful. Subscribe for more ideas soon.